telescope, or the eyeglass, the field glasses. So take a look at them. Now I wasn't looking for them, but when you see it on the ground, it's sort of interesting, so I picked it up. So here we go. The photo, on most of my photos I have three, on most of my slides I have 3 photos. This one happens to have 5. The eastern tiger swallowtail is on the upper left. Below it is the raspberry slime mold. Now I had heard of this before, but I'd never seen it, and there it was. With a color like that, it's hard to pass up, and it's only about the size of a penny, this one. The one in the center here is a scorpion fly, and it's called a scorpion fly because the abdomen sort of curves just like a scorpion, but this one is not dangerous. This one will be found very early after a corpse or after something dies, and then the forensic entomologist can sort of determine the time of death by the type of insects that are there. This is a spore print of a fungus, a mushroom. I took the stem off and put this, turned it upside down on black paper, and in 15 minutes that print was there. The crow, very intelligent bird. I think they say it's the raven and the crow are the 2 most intelligent birds. And I have a great story about a crow. I wrote an essay about my experience with a crow when I was a kid, in 8 years, when I was in 8th grade. Had him trained, he'd follow me to school. And then he learned what time school was out, and he'd go back to meet me and fly, follow me back home. Here's a little bit of information about the project. The goal was just to get a biological record, a random record of what was out there. And like I said, there are 262 photos, 117 slides. I've broken this down into several categories. The seasonal changes which are taking place right now, from the things being basically dormant to where they are blooming, and then the tree bark identification and so on. Notice in the upper right there, I have 12 hours and 56 minutes on April 6th, and then down to May 23rd, we have 14 hours and 43 minutes of sunlight. And notice the high and low temperatures. See, these are 2 factors, environmental factors, that will bring organisms out of dormancy. The amount of light and the temperature. So here are the, let me go back here, April 6th, April 11th, and as we go through here, things will get greener until May 23rd. The type of tree out there can be determined by its leaf, but in the winter when they don't have leaves, you have to use something like the bark. So we have black cherry, black walnut, and Ohio buckeye. And then we have maple. Notice in the maple, this thing right here. You know what that is? From tapping the tree, the spile is there. And back then they must have used plastic, but didn't take it out. And this is one of the problems that the timber buyers have. They don't want to buy maples that have been tapped because they may have left the metal tap in. Ironwood, an old sugar maple, and a young hackberry. Now we talk about falling trees. This is a very important procedure out in the woods. Things that die have to decompose, and when they decompose, the chemicals that are in them, the minerals and nutrients, are going to be recycled. So we have a standing dead tree, then a fallen tree with a bark, fallen tree without the bark, and then the rotting procedure goes on. And in I don't know how many years, if we're talking about this 3-foot diameter oak tree, it'll probably take 30, 40 years before that is back into the 90% rotted condition. The deer, I don't think this one was born in this woods, but the deer go back and forth from the Timbercrest Woods to the river. Would you believe that in this last deer season, there were 120,000 deer killed in Indiana, 1,300 in Wabash County. And that does not kill the poaching. I mean, does not include the poaching, does not include the road kills. So Indiana has a very healthy deer population. The fox are not out there this year. I haven't seen them. And they were just about 50 yards into the woods last year. And this was taken at night. You can see the night shine or eye shine from these fox. There's a membrane behind the retina that's like a mirror, and it reflects the light back out, which gives the fox almost a double view, a double amount of light to see at night. So we have one that was killed on Highway 13, right at the intersection of 13 and East Street. And there was back here. There were a lot of pieces of groundhog and rabbit around that den. And either it's because there were so many rabbits, but I haven't seen rabbits around here. So they must have come from off the campus somewhere. And I saw a lot of bones in the woods. I've been out there this spring, but I haven't seen quite so many bones because other animals will eat them. The rodents will eat them. This is a squirrel skull on the left, and in the middle is a deer bone, perhaps a humerus. And if we could magnify that, you would see the gnaw marks on there of the rodents. The rodents do that to keep their teeth sharpened, but also to get the nutrients that are in the skull, in the bone. This is a gray fox skull, 3 views. And we can tell the gray fox from the red fox by this line here. In the gray fox, it is sort of U-shaped. In the red fox, it's more of a V. Raccoon and squirrel tail. I don't know how the squirrel lost its tail. And I don't know if it was preyed upon or somehow, but just the tail was laying there. A lot of deer activity out there. And from that track, you could tell whether it was buck or a doe. You could tell its weight. You could tell whether it was running or just walking. So there's a lot of information. The deer hunters know all that. And here's some bits and pieces of rabbit that were found around the den. This incisor, well, we'll go on. Some more bones, and the deer hair in the middle. We know it's deer hair because it's hollow, and because of the color, we can tell what animal it's from. A mole tunnel. Scat, that's another name for poop or feces. And it's not that I'm so much interested in that, but there again, if you see it laying around and there's different kinds, then there evidently are other animals that have been there. And the deer, the trees on the left, on the right, have been rubbed by a deer. Deer have glands right between their antlers. They have glands on their feet, between their toes, on their legs, in their nose. So when they rub on a tree like this usually happens when they're in velvet. So when the velvet's ready to come off, then they'll get up into a tree and they'll rub, and in this case, damage a tree as well. Some more squirrel hair, and this is looking at the den from the dumpster way in the back here. And this is the fox den exit. The exit and the entrance were about 20 feet apart. And I think they could use either one, but they always have two escapes or two entrances. Some more scat. And some more scat, deer feces. Now, I don't know if that deer was playing golf or if this was a golfer who had an emergency. I would propose a golf match through the woods to see who could get through the woods with their golf ball with the fewest swings. Everyone would have to wear a helmet, though, because that'd be dangerous. The raptor feathers, raptor being an owl or a hawk. Now, why they would lose feathers was a mystery to me. I'm still not sure, because nothing will attack a bird of prey. Now, the crows will harass them, and they'll be chased by other birds, but I don't know, unless it was some other predator, that mammal that attacked, or whether there were two hawks or owls that were fighting. And I know some of you are bird specialists, ornithologists. If you can help me identify some of these feathers, I'd appreciate it. The crow feather on the left, and by the way, the green there is wild ginger, which is coming up later. The middle one, I believe, is a blue jay feather, and the ones on the right, I'm not sure. This one, the skeleton was on the east side of the woods. And I thought it was very unusual that I would be there when that skeleton was there. I think it was killed by a hawk. The way the flesh is stripped from the bones indicates it was probably not an owl, but probably a hawk. And I did see Cooper's hawks out there. The tree frog was actually on my window, I have to admit. It wasn't in the woods. And there are just a few slides of pictures that were taken around the edge of the woods, not right in the woods. And this was one. I took the frog off the window. I think I put it in the refrigerator overnight next to the pizza, and took it out the next day and staged this photograph. There are only 4 or 5 pictures that were staged. You see the one in the middle? Very interesting thing about this, when we had temperatures down 20 below zero, this frog was out under the leaves in the woods. Now, that's not when I took the picture, but these frogs can freeze solid. The heart will stop beating, they'll stop breathing, and they'll just freeze. They have glucose that replaces the water, which is an antifreeze, which keeps them alive through the winter. You weren't supposed to see that one. The sternum of a bird, and again, I think it was perhaps, I think it was about the size of a robin. The woodcock, I did see, but this is not a picture that I took. The woodcock is a migratory bird that will go to northern Michigan or into Canada for the summer and then come back through here. These other feathers, I'm quite sure, are woodpecker feathers. And so are these. The one in the middle, I'm sure, is the tail feather of a woodpecker. The one on the left is a guinea fowl feather. Again, I did find that out there, but there are no guinea fowls around, except on a farm back over here. So something probably caught one of those, took it out to the woods and ate it. The owl pellet is a regurgitated clump of feathers and claws and teeth and bones that the owl cannot digest. So after it goes, it's in the gizzard there for a while, and then when all the flesh is gone, this clump of indigestible material will be spit out. I could tell you about my pet owl too, but it's another story. I'm sure this is a turkey foot and turkey feathers, and oh, there we go. The white over here is uric acid. Birds don't have bladders, so the urine that they excrete is a solid paste. And this reduces the amount of water that they need, so they are better flyers, or it makes the body lighter. This is the type of stuff you see on your cars and on the sidewalk and on statues. Solid urine. Now we get into the insects. On the same tree, I saw those two. One, the bottom one is just emerging, and the top one is empty, just the exoskeleton is there. This is the loudest insect. And if you get close to them and they're full blast, you have to plug your ears. But of course, that's music to a female cicada. The wilted Ohio buckeye leaf, I just abbreviated that, and there is a hymenopteron there, and I thought this was the guilty one that caused the leaf to wilt. But it's actually another insect. It's a moth that lays an egg on the petiole of the leaf. It burrows in and blocks the flow of water to the leaf, and then it wilts. The miner, similarly, the adult will lay an egg on the leaf. Sorry. There we go, I'm sorry. And then the egg will hatch. The larvae will go into the leaf between the upper and lower epidermis and make this trail. On the left is a hackberry petiole gall, which again is the result of an insect laying an egg on the bud of the tree, and then the reproduction of the cells is taken over by that insect, by that larva. It's sort of just like a tumor. A tumor will result from the abnormal growth of the cells. The blowfly, this is another one that is one of the first insects to get onto a carcass or a corpse. An emerald ash borer tunnels, these ash borer were brought to the United States, not intentionally, I don't think, around 2000 it was, or 1980 or sometime in there. And what they did, they got through the bark, the outer bark, and into the cambium, or the inner bark, the phloem, and they destroyed the phloem, and that blocked the food from going from the roots of the tree up to the top. so the tree would die. There are some young ash trees out here, but nothing old. A dead tree with insects in it, and the woodpeckers have had their meal. The gall here on the hickory leaf, another example of an insect coming in and the larva taking over the reproduction of the cells. Epimonous moth. The Luna moth over on the left was bumping into my window at night, my study. And I thought, I think I'll go catch it. So I caught this at night, and I thought, I cannot leave it in a container because it'll fly around in there, and by the morning its wings will be torn. So I got permission to put it in a refrigerator again. And when it was still cold and dormant in the morning, I set it out and took this picture. The adult Luna moth and the adult Cecropia moth do not eat. They do not have a digestive system. They live off what is stored in the caterpillar, and they only live for about a week. The citronella ants have a very strong lemony scent when you crush them. And they live in the ground, and they have aphid farms. Aphid is another insect that'll grow on, will suck juices out of the roots of the plants, and then the ants come along and suck that honeydew, it's called, off from the ants. The carrion beetle. That's a very important organism for decomposition. About 2 weeks ago, I was walking a trail, and I saw this black thing laying in the trail. I said, I didn't see that last time I was here. I walked over there, and it was a dead skunk. A great opportunity. So I don't know, has anyone smelled that? Oh, good. Because I plan to leave it there until the carrion beetles have done their work. There'll be nothing but bones. And there is one carrion beetle called a sexton. And that's a carrion beetle that will bury the mouse or the small bird. That will protect it from other animals that might eat it. The one in the center is a red fox skull with the larvae of the carrion beetle. The centipede, the name means 100 feet, but they don't have 100 feet. They may have more, they have less, but not 100. The ladybird beetle over on the left, on your left, you can buy those and release them in your garden. I think you can get a couple dozen for about $30.
Why would you do that?
Why release the ladybugs? Because they kill harmful, what we would call harmful insects, harmful to the garden. So they prey upon other insects. So they're something that would be valuable. When you see those in your garden, be glad, be thankful. The tiger beetle is the fastest running beetle, or fastest running insect. And it drills a hole in the ground. The female will lay an egg in there and then fill that with caterpillars, little caterpillars. The larva will eat those caterpillars, and then it'll come up to the top of that little hole, right close to the edge, and it will capture any insects that come around it. Dragonfly below, I think this is about the only one I saw out there. And then the laurel sphinx larva. And I don't know, I think I was with Corky when we saw that. Walking along the trail, and I turned my head, and here this thing was. And it was just amazing to me. This was on our condo. And I'll stop with this one. You can see the eggs. Whoop, sorry. Notice how the eggs are laid in rows. And then in about 2 weeks, the nymphs came out. And I noticed that I couldn't figure out what they were eating because they didn't eat the brick. But I noticed that the number of nymphs was going down. So I figured, well, these are cannibalistic on their siblings. So that's what they do. They'll eat until some of them are larger and able to escape. And then these are the adults. They're called wheel bugs because of that structure on their backs. And these happen to be mating. Not that that makes any difference, but. So thank you for your time. I didn't give you a chance to ask questions. I would have a lot of questions if I were seeing these, and I would say, you didn't see those out there in the woods. You're just making this up. You just took pictures from anything. I did not do that. And I couldn't believe some of the things that I saw out there. And this year, if we did the same thing, the woods would be different. The work being done on the trail is going to change things, and once the trail's in place, it's going to change things. And the trees that are falling, there are, like I said, I think 4 trees, big trees that fell within the past 2 months, or past month. And then there are probably 5 or 6 other trees, large ones that are dead and standing. So I don't know why the trees are dying. And I would like to find out whether that is normal for a woods like this. This is a mature eastern deciduous forest. So once it reaches that level, there will be trees falling. Thank you.